You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 229, Discovering Your Self-Mastery with Rob Cressy. If you're a business owner who wants to improve your time management and elevate your productivity so you can maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you joined me. I'm looking forward to bringing this interview to you today. It's high energy and you getting the opportunity to meet our guest, Rob Cressy. Rob helps creators and entrepreneurs do great things, spanning the worlds of personal growth and self-mastery to marketing and brand building. His unique approach helps you become a better leader, fulfill personal and business success, and enjoy life. Rob's purpose in life is to be a positive force for the good that leads others to what's possible. Like I said, today's episode is not only just full of good energy, but really having a great conversation around what does it look like to continually grow, to improve ourselves, both personally and professionally, to aspire to have self-mastery. We're going to touch on topics such as what is self-mastery and why is it a huge component of your success, the drivers of all your results, how energy affects your self-mastery, productivity, and ultimately living your best life, what people tend to overlook with self-mastery, tips for creating the best version of yourself every day, and so much more. But before we dive in, I want to invite you to check out my Leverage Lab program. If you're looking to surround yourself with like-minded business owners who are pursuing their goals and growing their businesses, if you would like to get coaching from me as well as training and accountability, then I would love for you to check out Leverage Lab, where I support business owners in showing up their best and teach you and coach you on how to leverage yourself, your time, organization, and people so that you can grow the business you dreamt of. To learn more and join us, head on over to amberdelagarza.com/leverage lab. And now let's meet our guest and get to the straight talk. Welcome, Rob, to Productivity Straight Talk. How are you doing today?
I am doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, I was looking forward to this interview. I did some research on you. I was like, "Ooh, this is going to be great mid-morning energy." So this is awesome. So today we're going to be talking all about how to discover your self-mastery and diving deep into what self-mastery is and why it's important and all of those good things. I am always interested in personal growth, and I believe it's a huge component to success. So I cannot wait to dive into this topic with you, Rob.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. And you said one word at the top, which can actually start us on our conversation. And that word is energy, and how important energy is to self-mastery, productivity, and ultimately living your best life. Because we all have the ability to cultivate and create our own energy so that you wake up every single day excited for the journey ahead and what it is that you're going to do. And then a beautiful thing happens when you wake up with this abundant energy where you love what you're doing and you want to help others. Guess what? Boom, you become a mirror to where you can transfer that to others, because there's a quote I love, you cannot give to others that which you are not experiencing yourself. So as it relates to us creating and hitting our business goals, you can start to see where your energy, not just energy level, the energy that you radiate and that you bring to the table, how that mirror on others can make them feel better about who you are, because ultimately people want to work with people they know, love, and trust. So now your ability to cultivate your being and who you are can be the ultimate driver of all of your results.
All right. Well, oftentimes we talk here at Productivity Straight Talk about energy management versus time management. So maybe we should just kick it off with that. Like, if this is the cornerstone, energy, how do you manage energy? How do you create energy so that you can be that person that transfers that and, provides that to your clients and your colleagues and your team?
So this is the most important thing of my day every single day. And it's called self-cultivation, AKA creating your being, who you are. So we all have the opportunity to design how we show up every single day, the lens that we see the world, the way that we interact with people. And when you can control the story that you tell yourself every single day, and you realize that it's a blank canvas, you say, well, wait a second. I can tell myself anything. So I could wake up and watch the news and jump on social media and start doing texts right away. Or I could read for 30 minutes. I could meditate. I could live in gratitude. I can do journaling. I can do all of these different things. And your choice, one way or another, will determine how the rest of the day will go. So by design, wouldn't it make sense for us to say, what do we need to do or get to do to create ourselves into the best version of ourselves every single day? So what are the most powerful elements of who you or who Amber is? And let's get very specific on these things. So I'll even give you an example of some of the things that I read every single day and speak out loud in my self-cultivation practice. So number one, I am full of love. And I think about my wife and my son and how I love being on podcasts and being on this podcast with you, Amber. And I feel that and I let it radiate inside of me. It feels so good. Well, now my version of who I am every single day, it fills with love. And I'm abundantly generous. And I think about giving the person at the pizza shop an extra tip because I'm somebody who pays it forward. Boom. And that's part of who I am. And I'm a force of attraction. And I think about myself like a diamond and things are just coming to me in this radiance. So when all of a sudden someone slides into my Instagram DM saying, Rob, I want to jump on a call with you. I created that and I attracted that because that is part of my being. And then you do this every single day, day after day. Why? Because a day starts over again. Recreate yourself. And now you can build consistency in creating who you are, and who you are creates the results of everything in your world.
All right. So how long have you had this practice for yourself?
It has been a decade in the making. So when I started my entrepreneurial journey 10 plus years ago, I went from making really good money to $0 overnight. And I was like, what am I going to do about this? So I audited the success habits of the most successful people in the world, the people that I aspire to do things like and be like. And I was like, what are their habits, routines, mindsets, ways of being to help them do what it is that they're doing? And slowly but surely, I started adding things. So it was like the average CEO reads 60 books a year. And I was like, crap, I'm reading 0. I think I want to get on this. And then all of a sudden, I created a reading routine, which created a growth mindset for myself. Then I just started stacking various things that I found. Success leaves breadcrumbs. Ooh, I like this. I like this. Try this. Try this. Over the course of 10 years, now I've created a self-cultivation practice so that I know every single day that I am the best version of myself because I've designed it, I've created it, and I've lived it, and I've chosen it.
All right. So it sounds like you experimented over 10 years with what worked and what didn't work. I am curious about some of the things that you heard work for others and didn't work for you.
Ooh, that's a great question. That is one that has never been asked of me. And I'm trying to think because by design, I look towards experimenting. And I think this comes from me listening to the Tim Ferriss podcast and reading his books. And I'm someone that I tried fasting for a day and I didn't stick with that. And I did a 7-day no bread challenge, and I love bread or pizza and things like that. Didn't exactly work for me that way. So I don't have something that is like life altering where you're like, oh my God, I tried meditating and I didn't do it. Because oftentimes there's a reason for why we want to create the skill. So everything that I do, one is curious, but two is intentional. So a lot of people aren't willing to try something. So I think a great example of this, of one which is extremely uncomfortable that I do, cold showers. So cold water therapy is something that, one, biologically just works for you. But number two, it is your opportunity to conquer that self-limiting voice in your head that says, oh my God, this water is too cold. Why in the world are you doing this? What are the benefits? Because how many other times in our life are we designing discomfort into what we're doing? So I wish I could give you a tangible one, because that would have been the best example. I was talking to a client this week who I encouraged him to do it. And he said after 3 times, he's like, Rob, I'm done. I'm not doing this. But guess what? That became the doorway to say, why are you not doing this? And he just had not connected with the why of why we do these things for ourselves to create the result that we want.
All right. So how long is your morning routine right now?
I'd say 2 hours.
All right. And would you consider yourself like a morning person, or you just start your morning routine when you like at a normal time? Like, what does this look like for you, Rob?
I would not consider myself a morning person. I would consider myself someone who lives by design, not by default. So once again, as I was reading about all these successful people, it was like, hey, most of them are waking up early. And I'm like, I'm waking up at 7:30 in the morning, and they're all waking up in the 4 or 5s. Think I want to work on this? Boom. 7 minutes at a time, 3 minutes at a time. I chopped 7:30 into sometime in the 5s. And I did that because I want more opportunity to create myself. So like a robot, I was like, how in the world do you do that? Well, what if you just scheduled sleep as a 7 or 8 hour meeting? So it now becomes you go to bed at 9 or 10, and then you wake up at 5. So for me, that's not about, am I a morning person? This becomes about lifestyle design. How do I want to live my life? Well, I never want the excuse that if I only had more time. Well, if you wake up in the 5s, you're going to throw that excuse out the trash, because I'm not waking up at 2. Like, I'm getting 7 or 8 hours. So because of that, I was able to take that off the table, which I think in entrepreneurship and business, the more you can take excuses out of your lexicon, the more you can live and flow in who you are.
Yeah. You know, for me, I wouldn't necessarily ever have identified myself as a morning person throughout my life, but I wake up between 4:30 and 5 because I love my morning routine. I love my quiet time. I love it before the house gets going. I love to set myself up in the right mindset. So for a lot of these things too, and like you were mentioning before, it was tying it to the why, tying it to the benefit. But now it's just natural. Like sleeping into 6:30, if I roll over on a Sunday and it's like 6:30, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was like my 10 or 11, maybe in my early 20s. So I get that. And one thing you said quickly, but I had done some research on you. And so I had heard this story, and I want you to share it with the audience, is that this was over a long period of time. This wasn't like, this week and then next week you were up at 5 a.m. You strategically said, I'm retraining my body 7 minutes at a time. I am setting myself up for success for this to be a sustained habit. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. Great research. So there's some philosophies that you can live or create by. I'm a creator. I love to create. So there's a book called Kaizen. I believe it's One Small Step. And it's a Japanese philosophy of essentially 1 is always greater than 0. So a lot of people say, oh, I don't have time to go to the gym, but they don't realize that you can just do 11 push-ups right now. Well, the same is true for designing how to wake up in the morning. Because I remember when I first started this, I tried to go from 7:30 to 5:15 a.m. And I did that for 1 week. And I was a zombie. It was like, oh my God, Where did those 2 hours and 15 minutes go? Mentally, boom, my self-limiting voice just making tons of noise. That didn't work for me. But here's what does work for me. 7:30 to 7:24. Do you think you missed 6 minutes? No, you don't. 7:24 turns into 7:21. You miss those 3 minutes? No. So now all of a sudden, you essentially life hack yourself just to start shaving off small improvements, because that's what the majority of people, when it comes to self-mastery, overlook. And there's two things: one, small improvement, and two, compounding interest. So what does shaving 1 minute off every 3 days do for you? Could you imagine getting an extra minute a day every single day for the entire year? That's hours of your life. So we live so much in the day-to-day without realizing what growth really looks like. Growth is really just do one more, or in this instance, shave off 3 minutes.
All right. I love that. When you are looking at your morning routine, do you feel like it is very structured for you? Or do you say, these are the things I like to do and I just do them in like a fluid order? There's a lot of different strategies. So I'm just curious, does it feel fluid or does it feel structured? Like I do this for 30 minutes. I do this for 15 minutes.
So Amber, there is something that you said that made me feel so warm inside when you were talking about the way that you wake up in the morning. You know how many times you said the word love? It was at least 3. Well, why is that? Oh, I'm not a morning person, Rob. Welcome to the Case of the Mondays. You said, I love, I love, I love. Boom. So now we enjoy doing this. So with that in mind, I'm extremely structured around this. It's by design. So, all right, back to the reading thing, because it's the best example. So if I'm reading 0 books, I want to start reading books. Rob, where am I going to find time to do this? That's what everybody says. I don't have enough time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If something is important enough, we will always find time to do it, correct?
Yes.
Because by design, important means you will do it. Cool. I identified that reading in the morning, that is important. So I am going to find time to do it. When is there always time to do something? First thing in the morning. Literally the very first thing, because therefore there is no excuse for why it does not get done, because if it's the most important, it becomes first. So for over a decade, I have read for 30 minutes a day, weekends included, very first thing when I wake up in the morning. Well, why do I do that? Because by design, if I learned something today, then I made today better than yesterday. So for 10 years straight, I have designed growth into what I do just by reading 30 minutes a day, first thing in the morning, every single day. Well, after that, I'm like, well, what else do I want to have part of my life that I want in there? So there's a book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, where she teaches the concept of morning pages. What is it? AKA journaling. You take what's in your head and you put it onto a piece of paper and get it out of there. So maybe that's 15 minutes. And then after that, I spend 20 minutes on self-cultivation and creating my being, speaking and feeling into my I am declarations of who I am. And then I read my gratitude and then I go to the gym. So it's very much by design. I do time how long I read. All the other ones, no time whatsoever. I could journal for 4 minutes or 30 minutes. It's usually more on the shorter side. Meditate for 5, that's timed. So it is very structured, but that's by design because I want all of those things in who I am.
I hope everyone is listening that you changed out the word structured for by design. We think of our schedules and our routines and how we show up. Oftentimes the pushback is, that's not me. It feels too structured. And yet there's so much freedom in the structure. And I often say, because I work with exclusively business owners, yeah, there's structure, but it's not somebody else's structure. You got to create it. You got to say, I want to work these days and these hours, and I want to take these meetings on that day, and I want my mornings to look like that. Like, that's a shift in the mindset to say, I chose this. How awesome is that to have that as a benefit because you chose to be a business owner?
You mean my entire dream of my life? Like, remember, I have not always been this person. If you go back 12 years ago, I was slinging banner ads and text links as a digital ad sales guy, waking up every day, hating his job, work hard, play hard, going out Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, living for the weekends, dreaming of being creative and being an entrepreneur and working in sports and doing whatever I wanted in life. And once I finally cut that cord and said, you know what, I would regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't give it a shot at making my dreams happen. Boom, burn the boats. That life of me, gone. Because my mom would always call me like, Rob, you're making such good money. Do you ever want to go back to ad sales? Done. And from that moment, I gave myself the thing that I believe so many people want, and that is freedom. Freedom of choice, freedom to do what you want, freedom to live by design. And when you live this way, everything is a creation of you, not a have to do. That's why I have a get to do list. I get to do everything. I don't have to do anything. And when you come from this place of creation, you can't but help create this energy and love and zeal for your life and the people you work with. And like, Amber, I'm so inspired by you and this podcast and the life that you've built, because I love being around other people who live by design, because the rest of the world does not live by design. By design, we are outliers. So there's a new theme or something I've been using often this year, and it is uncommon by design. We are uncommon in the best way possible, because I know and you know what a gift this is. We have literally been given the biggest gift in the world. So why am I on this podcast? To share with others the gift of how you can design and create whatever it is that you want. It doesn't have to be what Rob does or what Amber does. But when you understand that you're in charge of this, world goes from black and white to color.
Yes. Okay. So you said in charge because you get to make the decision, that you get to choose. So often in our businesses and our days, the people we surround ourselves with, we are on autopilot and normalize it. So one of the words I use is like, what are you normalizing? Like, look there first. The thing that you said, it's okay. All right. Okay. It's okay. Well, no, like, how can you fall in love with it? Like, how can it be? I just actually recorded an episode called How Can You Turn It Into a Hell Yes? Look for all the things that you've normalized, your routine, the meetings you're in, the people you have on your team, the type of clients you work with, how you navigate your life, your relationship with your business. How can you turn those into a hell yes? And it's often the things that we've defaulted and just said, that's the way it is.
I absolutely love that. So yes, and this for you. So what in the world do we do about this? Rob and Amber, all right, I default to a bunch of different stuff. So what are we going to do? So number one, it is intention. You show up with the intention that I don't want to live by default. I want to live by design. You got to have that. I can't make you change if you don't want to change. Start with that intention. Number two, awareness. So, all right, I'm ready to change. I'm not living by default. So now take inventory of the areas where you're living by default. And this, Amber, is what separates those who do from those who don't. Is you spend 30 minutes or 1 hour and you get there and you do the internal work that says, all right, where, Rob, are you living by default? Where are your fears, your judgments, your self-limiting beliefs, the things that are looping in your head? I want you to write those things down. And you know what? 95 out of 100 people, and probably more like 99 out of 100, are not going to do what I just said. But when you take inventory of those things that are stopping you, limiting you, making you normal, making you average, all of a sudden, guess what you can do with that list? I can create with it. All right, I'm not doing anything for fitness. I'm living on the default couch. All right, boom. What is the one action I am going to take so that I am no longer doing this? Now you've created a self-improvement and self-growth menu for yourself. You don't got to do it all at once. Remember, 3 minutes at a time, to where now self-improvement over 10 years becomes, hey, Rob and Amber showed me how I can take inventory of all the areas where I can be better. And I'm just going to choose each one and I'm going to work on it.
Yes. Okay. I'm all about action. So I love that you broke that down. I often say habits can either work for you or against you, but they're all around us. And so many people are saying, oh, I'm just not a routines person. I don't like routines. I like to be creative and go with the flow. And I tell you, look around. Like you literally have routine all around you, but you've normalized it to where you're almost blind to it. So, like when you're stressed and overwhelmed, what is your go to? Is your default to sit on the couch, zone out on TV, or is it to go for a run? Right. So, what is the default, ways that we show up? That's a habit. But we often only associate habits with like, what are all the good things that I need to do to put, say, in my morning routine?
So, Amber, there's two things that I'm going to add on to what you just said. So, that example, you know what that is? That is someone who is living the story they are telling themselves. Remember, you get to choose the story you're telling yourself. I am not ... Well, what did I talk about at the beginning? I am full of love, abundantly generous, a masterpiece of health and strength. I am a force of attraction. So everybody else likes to live in the I am not. But imagine if your story creates from I am this. And then number two, the I am not person has a lack of process. So does Amber and myself have bad moments or days or feel overwhelmed or say, why in the world am I doing this? Or things don't go according to plan? Yeah, all the time. But the difference between us and other people is we have a process for recognition. Remember, intention, we want to get better. Number two, awareness. All right, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. All right, I recognize this. Rob, you're pretty awesome at what you do. This is just a moment. Breathe for a second. You're right. I'm going to go take a walk outside with my dog. Come back. Man, I'm super excited for Amber's podcast. That's the process. So most people lack the process. One, the awareness. Two, the process. Boom, turns you into action.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't agree with you more. So one of the things that I teach inside what my mindset masterclass is that we need to have a maintenance. This is our normal routine to keep a positive mindset, but I also say you need this like toolbox that you go to. So when you observe that it's a harder day or the maintenance plan didn't quite get you there to where you feel like you're able to conquer the day, is that once you observe that it doesn't feel great. I feel, for example, overwhelmed. What are your go-to tools? So Rob called it a process, and I call it your go-to tools because my tools are going to be different than Rob's tools, right? So he referenced a walk with his dog. I have a puppy. She's more frustrating to walk. So maybe that's not my go-to for calming down, right? And, resetting my mindset. But I think I'm so glad that you shared that, is that it's so powerful to know what works for you so you can triage that situation. You observe it, you catch it quicker and quicker every time. And you have your go-to of like, I know this works, and then get right back on track.
So Amber, we're talking about self-mastery because what is a tool about? Well, wait a second. Like Neo in the Matrix, who all of a sudden realizes he can learn Kung Fu. When you understand that you can create anything you want in your life, it is a game changer. And I think back to the beginning of my journey and someone said to me, Rob, if you ever hope to get paid to do what you love, you better be doing it already. And I was like, I want someone to pay me to talk about sports for a living. Well, how in the world do you do that? You learn podcasting, audio, video editing, being a host, social media marketing, brand building, community building, apparel, throwing events. And all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, I can build my tool belt to do whatever it is that I want to do. And as you continue on this growth trajectory of building your tool belt, your potential grows as you grow. So now you add more things to your tool belt. So it limits others. You not only see as being able to be done, you turn that into gold as a way to create yourself. So now you can look at life and obstacles and challenges as, well, what is my tool belt? And if I don't have a tool belt for frustration or whatever, let me go and build it. Let me go find the Ambers of the world who have a course that help me get better. And now you are in charge of everything once again, of building your tool belt to use whenever you want to build a new house.
Yes. One of the things you said earlier on was that you came to a point where you went from making really good money to zero money. And you thought, I need to figure out how to get my mindset. That's what I heard, right? Like you wanted to, learn after other people. And I am just curious that why you went to mindset over strategy or business plan, because it has served you well. But I feel that there's a lot of people listening that keep wanting to fix strategy or planning their business model, but don't realize that fundamentally it's a mindset thing. So how did you get there? How did you know that's where you need to do the work?
Absolutely beautiful question, because this single decision in what I'm about to say changed my life. So, and remember, I was not this person. So for me to figure this out pretty much blows my own mind. So on an entrepreneurial journey, I knew it was a roller coaster. It was not a linear path. From everything that I'd read, reading Inc. magazine and Fast Company and everything, boom, a series of ups and downs. I was going into an industry at the time in sports and media creation. I had no contacts, no relationships. I had never done this before other than me knowing as a creator, I belonged and I was as good or better than everybody else as a writer at the time. I knew what I could create. And I sat there and I was like, all right, even if I'm making $0 every single day, what can I control? What can I do so that these are not a bunch of 0 days? Because that's a hard thing when you're starting out an entrepreneurial journey. 0, 0, 0, 0. You're like, oh my God, I just feel so, there's that weight on your chest. It just hurts so bad. You're attaching your dream and everything you want in your life, but you're not getting the results that you want. So how do I not live at 0 when I'm all in on my dream? It's very much a paradox. And I realized something. There are two things that can never be taken from you. Number one, what you learn. By design, if I make $0 of revenue for a year straight, if I read every single day and learn Photoshop and video editing and Final Cut Pro, I am making myself better. No one can take that from me. So boom, foundational to who I am. And number two, my mindset. No one can take away from me how I show up. So Amber, here's another one of the just life-changing moments for me. So I'm like, all right, what is going to help me accomplish my goals faster? Positivity or negativity? Well, the answer is positivity, of course, right? Because negativity is going to slow me down and actually take me further away from where I want to go. So therefore, this became binary. Negativity had no place in my life because if I'm just being logical, it's going to take me away from where I want to go. So therefore, on that moment, I live a life of absolute positivity. I am the leader of Team Good Vibes because negativity does not serve me. And if Amber, if you were to ask me the question, Rob, why are you living this life of negativity? Don't you realize that all of the things that you want in your life are attached to love and positivity? Yeah. Boom. Upon that moment, my mindset got adopted of growth mindset. I can get better. I'm not fixed. Live a life of positivity. See the world of love, generous. Things can get better. And no one can take that from me.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked that question. That was a great answer. That was such a great answer. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. How do you help people that say, hey, Rob, like, I get it. Like, I want more of what you have. I want to live my life by design. How do you help people move into self-mastery or have the practice of continual self-mastery?
So it starts with everything that we've just said being listened from the lens of you. So my purpose in life is to be a positive force for good that leads others to what's possible. Remember, where did I start? 0. Skills, 0. Relationships, 0. Quite frankly, mindset, 0. So if I can do it, so can you. So I like to lead by design and by example. So I say, listen, Amber, here's the things that I have done that have served me. You can try them on for size. I will give you the process. I will give you the championship. because I am here to support you in everything that you do. And a lot of people just don't have that. Why does coaching exist? Because a journey like this is very isolating, and certainly entrepreneurship, but self-mastery, I look around and I'm like, there is not very many people like me in the world by design. So you want someone who is there to support you and to have a conversation with you and to say, hey, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling overwhelmed at the blah, 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 blah. So I've built a digital platform around self-mastery, and then I layered on coaching conversations. Step one, let me introduce the topics and the ways of being and thinking. And then step two, let's have you experience it. And then one, ask a question, or two, say, I want more. What's the next level? And none of this is about me. It is all about you and you wanting this and you to create it. So let's have you design your menu and say, hey, Rob and Amber, you guys have both designed amazing menus for yourselves. Can you help lead me and show me some things that I can do to design my own world?
All right. And so what type of clients do you typically help? Are you exclusively helping business owners, or is it anyone? Because everything we talked about, interestingly enough, could help everyone. It could help my 11-year-old son. It could help someone at corporate. And so what is your specialty if you do have one on this topic?
Yeah, and this is actually a lesson for business owners, because therein lies the challenge. Of course, everybody would want this. Who would not want to be happier, more successful, more fulfilled, loving life every day, loving everything that they do? But I learned the hard way that you cannot push a rock uphill. And I specialize in working with people who are already on the growth path, because I'm not going to convince you that this way of being and that this life is for you. You're someone who is already on the journey of growth. And maybe self-mastery is a new word for you, because now you can start to see, ooh, I'm someone who wants to live my best life every single day. And I host a podcast called Best Year Ever. And it's very simple. How do you create your best year ever? You create your best month ever, week ever, day ever, hour ever, moment ever. Because best year ever is a mindset. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of being. It's a way of showing up in the world. So I typically find the people who are on that sort of trajectory, they are leaders, creators, entrepreneurs, founders, business owners, CEOs, leaders of teams. They are people who lead themselves and lead others and say, I want to know what separates those who are good from great, those inches. I want to fulfill my business and personal potential, where you know there is so much more for yourself. Those are the people that I help.
All right. So at the beginning of today's conversation, we started off with morning routines. And I think you have something special for our listeners that you may want to share with them. You want to tell them about it and where to get it?
Yeah. So I love to help other people. So if you go to robcressy.com, that's robcressy.com/morning. What I did is I took the morning routine that I designed and I put it into a very simple PDF that says, Design Your Best Self, a guide to creating a morning routine that serves you. So Amber, like the question you asked, Rob, how do these people do this? Boom. Here's the menu of what I did. Pick and choose the things that you like, implement them in your life, and now you can design the morning routine that you want, one day at a time. And sometimes you just need inspiration or a model from someone else. And after people interviewed me enough about this, I was like, listen, I'm just going to give everybody the resource so that you can have this for yourself. So robcressy.com/morning.
Excellent. We'll make sure that those links are in the show notes and shared with our audience. Rob, this has been a great conversation, promised full of energy, but you know what? Great insight. So thank you so much for being so transparent and sharing your journey so that others can learn from it, and just really dropping some things that I am over here just nodding my head like, yes, like everything you're saying sounds so right. And I think many of our listeners are walking away from this episode saying the same thing. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Amber. I really appreciate it.
I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk, and I sure hope you found my conversation with Rob to be insightful, energizing, and certainly actionable. No change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. What was the little aha or nugget from today's conversation with Rob? What hit home for you? Don't just let it be one of the head nods and you go about your day. I want you to pause for just a moment and commit to how you can put this into action. You know that I am a huge proponent. We don't need more information. We don't need just more cheerleading. We need actionable content that makes us think different, questions the way that we may have made assumptions around something, or truly just clarifies how you can put these strategies into practice in your day-to-day. Before we close out, I would just ask that if you found that today's episode was valuable, that you come on over to Instagram, Amber_De La Garza, and say hi. Drop into my DMs, comment on a post, and let me just put a face or a profile picture, I suppose, with the listeners that I know I'm speaking to and serving each and every day. I would love to connect with you over on Instagram. So you can do that by heading on over to Instagram and search Amber_De La Garza. And lastly, don't keep Productivity Straight Talk a secret. Share it with a fellow business owner that you think would find value and it would help them along their journey, their entrepreneurial journey. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.